Welcome to Wild and Wise, where I dive into conversations with trailblazers in business, design, and creativity. Together, we'll uncover the wisdom and wild spirit behind their journeys, the stories, the struggles, and the sparks of inspiration that shape a curated life. Follow along on Instagram at WildXWisePod. Now let's dive into today's episode. Season 3 of Wild and Wise is back, and I couldn't be more excited. We're going to have some incredible guests coming on to this season, both here in studio and digitally, that I will be interviewing and having deep conversations with that range from empowered women to hospitality vets that are absolutely killing the game right now. We're so excited to be back. This is our third season. We've learned a lot. Season 1 was really a lot of my closest friends who are doing incredible things in San Diego. Season 2, we really got to spread our wings, meet new people, invite new and sort of more elevated conversations to the table. Season 3, a lot has changed. We're elevating our space and the way that we're doing our production, which is so exciting. But we're also really curating the list of people around who is building incredible both experiences for other humans and who is also an authority on pushing the way that we elevate our lives. And I have had a lot of big changes over the last 6 months. I am newly single. I am single parenting. Business has never been better. The opportunities and connections and collaborations that have come through the door, even in the last 2 months, are really blowing my mind. I've been working on myself a tremendous amount, and I'm just really feeling like life couldn't be any better. So this season is going to be something really special, and I hope you'll follow along for our journey. For our first episode of season 3, we're going to talk about something that I've really been diving into, which is the messy middle, but also pairing it with how you can really bring more humanity into branding. So for this solo episode, instead of talking about my feelings and where I'm at, I will be kind of collaborating that with how that applies to work. So much of the work I do is intuitive, intrinsic. I think I'm really great at working with brands because I listen to my gut, I follow emotion, but I also see what's missing. And in order to really build a strong brand, you have to have a feeling. You can't really pay a PR firm, a branding agency, or a social media company to create a feeling if you don't already know what you want people to feel when they experience your brand. And sometimes it's showcasing the messiness of your brand that really allows people to feel connected to what you're doing, what you're creating, what your space is giving. And so a really important part of the work that we're doing for other people is creating events, really curating a dynamic social media feed that shows people not just the beautiful images, the perfect Instagram reels, but really showcases what people are doing, building, what they're being challenged with in order to build the brands that people feel so aligned with. So today we're going to talk a lot about what brands sometimes get wrong and why it doesn't work, and then some examples of what I've really loved being able to do that I feel has really connected humans to brands that I've worked with and brands that I love. So for one, I think we live obviously on our phones. We are constantly looking for inspiration, whether it's makeup tutorials or incredible lifestyles, cars. I know that's a lot of my feed. But at the end of the day, I also want to know how those people got there. And I think the same can be applied to different brands. So for example, we right now are working with a client who has been building a restaurant for 2 years now. And we haven't released the stories behind it, but we've been documenting the meetings, the decisions on texture and tiles, the decisions on uniforms and service. And it's been absolutely incredible to be able to build that so that when we open the restaurant, we're able to really showcase what it took to get here. We've been going to the construction site. We've been documenting the length of time and the evolution of the space. And even though we haven't been releasing that content right now, we're really filming it so that when we open, people can see how far we've come, how many decisions had to be made, how many evolutions and iterations of the menu design, of the menu itself, of the interiors of the bar. I don't think people realize, and to be frank, I don't even think I realized how much time, how many decisions, how many iterations, how many evolutions it takes to open up a space unlike anything else. And so sometimes that messy middle, which we're in right now for this exact example, is really the most beautiful place that you can be, because it's a coming together of human beings who are all coming from different backgrounds to build something extraordinary. And documenting that is so incredibly important. And we have been. When you have like an over curated, kind of perfectly polished Instagram, I think it becomes sort of unrealistic and unrelatable. And maybe somebody's watching this saying, yeah, that's obvious. But I think that it becomes a little bit challenging actually getting that content, and then how are you going to use it? And so a big part of what we're going to be doing with Chrome City in this particular example is kind of showing the before and after, showing the team coming together, because it's showcasing the humanity of each of the humans who has dedicated their time. We're meeting for hours at a time, multiple times a week, to build out this brand. And I think that being able to show every little piece and part of that to build this story once we're open is going to also give more value to the brand. The way to give more value to a brand when you're telling that brand story is to show the messy middle, is to show the hard work, is to show what it was and how far it's come, is to show the decisions that, for example, maybe we're changing something because we're listening to the people. And I think that a lot of brands miss that with an oversaturated, perfectionist, curated feed. And I think that's a huge miss when people are looking to connect with other humans. When we're on social media, we are most drawn to stories of love. I mean, think about the videos you love the most. It's cute kids, it's pets, it's a man's sort of devotion of his love to a woman. And those are the ones that really draw you in on an emotional level. So when it comes to a brand, you really have to find the ways beyond just the food, if I'm using the example of a restaurant, beyond just the perfection of, say, a cocktail image or a bar photo. I want to see the intensity in the eyes of the bartender as he details each drop into his cocktail that he's making, the thought he's putting behind the drink that he's serving you. I want to see people's faces when they hear the jazz musician in the back bar for the first time. And so that's something that sometimes can't be planned. It can't be perfectly curated. It may be, as a social media agency, popping into the space on a Thursday night and kind of secretly observing and watching and finding those moments. And I think as a creative agency owner, I'm always looking for those moments. I'm looking for those moments even within my team as we're producing an event. Where is the behind the scenes moment? Where is the moment where the music stops and the microphone doesn't, that we can really kind of pull together the humanity of making an event feel human and really enjoyable. Another part of it is the obsession with trends over the truth. And so while I love a good trend, although to be frank, needing to work on that a little bit, I may have, as a millennial, outgrown the trend opportunity. My timing is off. I've tried. I think what's really important too is just looking into the camera and telling the truth. Like, this has been a challenge. I'll continue to go back to the restaurant as an example because I was just with them and it's something that I've just been doing for so long. But we'll be interviewing the entire team, and I don't just want them to say what the vision and purpose of the restaurant was. I really want them to talk about what it took to get here, the grueling hours, the Sunday afternoons that weren't spent having drinks with friends, but rather redesigning concepts, reworking menus, pitching. And so I think so much of the trends are wonderful. They get you, maybe some viability and some virality, but also really speaking to what it took, where the flavors come from. If we're, white labeling a caviar and there's a beautiful story behind the fisherman and the process, I want to know more about that. And I think sometimes it's hard to go deeper when you have such a quick amount of time to tell a story or to get people's interest. But I also think that's where building out a series online can really help, because maybe you start to break up a longer and more deeper story into a series where we're following the chef, we're going deeper, and then in between, of course, we'll have a little moment for a trending, reel or something like that. But I think the obsession with trends over truth may work for a certain audience, but for an audience that I'm typically trying to reach, which is more my age, 39, almost 40, we want to go deeper. I recently found this Instagram account called Moth Stories, and it was long form storytelling, and it had me. It absolutely captured me. And again, it may not be for everyone, but it was these kind of insightful vignettes of people's stories and just this sort of like basis fully in their humanity of a moment in their life, a snapshot into what's happened to them and how it made them feel. And I don't think I had found anything like that online in a long time. And so I'm really feeling drawn to a little bit longer form storytelling in order to kind of make yourself stand out from the noise that we see. I think it really comes down to actual storytelling, and that's really sometimes where I think brands miss the mark. Oftentimes, if we onboard a client, I want to pull apart every nitty-gritty detail when it comes to what is the story that we're telling. For example, I want to know about the chef. I want to know about his background. I want to know where he's getting the food from. And that's, baseline social media storytelling. But I also want to know, I want to know about the hostess. I want to know about the guests that she loves seeing that come through the door. I want to know about the neighboring restaurants. I want to know about the guy who opened the menswear store next door, who's really taken care of the community for decades, and what this means to him. And I think it's really important to be able to bring the community into storytelling. Oftentimes we'll have pillars, storytelling pillars. And, one of the pillar may be, for example, food. Another may be the bar program. Another may be the music program. But the other is usually the humanity, the storytelling, the people, the old man who sits in the corner at the bar and has a dirty martini at 4 p.m. every day. I'm more interested in that because if you think about film and you think about cinematography, we're always pulled in the direction of characters like that. And the same goes for storytelling in social media. So that's one thing. So what does it mean to define your brand's purpose? I think that in order to stand out from the noise in a digital world, you really have to know your purpose as a founder, as a CEO, before you even start the business. What problem are you trying to solve? What are people looking for that they're not quite getting? I often compare business to dating because here we are. And it's like, even when you're searching for an apartment, you'll find that perfect place, but it just needed one more bathroom. You'll find that perfect place, but the carpet's just not right. And the same can go with businesses. There's a million businesses out there that feel really noisy. But if you're going to start your own and you want to define that brand's purpose, you really need to know what little pieces need to come together to one place that people are seeking. And I think that Chrome City is a great example of that. We started as a public relations firm. It's what people knew. It's what people did when they opened a restaurant or started a business. They got a PR firm. But as social media started to grow, I felt like the storytelling of the small stories was so important, and we started to pivot. And I think that purpose became about storytelling for clients, brand connection, expansion, telling the story of the humanity that exists within those brands that we worked with. And that's where we really took off. We started to create experiences where people could connect to the brand. We could capture that connection digitally, and we could share that connection digitally through social media by having those in-person experiences. And so it's just an example of building a brand and pivoting in order to serve a greater purpose. People wanted to come together and have curated experiences. And while there was big galas, big parties, there was a lot of maybe smaller things happening in the city. Of course, there's amazing concerts, comedians, jazz, art. We wanted to bring those things together. We wanted a little bit of music, a little bit of food, and a little bit of art and design to all come together in a curated format that really spoke to people. And we didn't know if it was going to work, but we built it based off the feedback that we saw, which was this desire for connection, this desire for bringing together some of the greatest parts of life when it comes to creativity, that is art and food. And we've continued to do so with a lot of different brands. That little trifecta of food, art, connection, community, I guess that's more than a trifecta, has really served us well. And it's something that we're best known for. And it's because there feels like there's purpose. I think such a big part of what people miss is the purpose. You may throw a fantastic dinner party. You may throw a really sexy event. You may have these really luxury brands come together. But if we're not talking about a deeper purpose, you usually leave your guests leaving feeling like, okay, what's next? My goal when I'm working with brands is to have people leave saying, how can I come back? How can I do that again? I need that feeling again. I want to leave people with a feeling that impacts them so deeply that they need more. It's a must. It becomes part of their DNA, that the experience that they just had felt so transformative that they can't wait to know what's happening next. And I think that the way that we do that is through wildly precise execution, an insane attention to detail, but also making sure that there is an array of senses that are touched, right? So when you walk into an event that's produced, I want to first and foremost make sure that you have sort of a sense of sight. There is beautiful florals, there is beautiful people, there is beautiful tablescapes. Smell. I always want you to be able to smell food. Maybe the cocktails have a little dash of cilantro. There's something that you can smell in the air that makes you feel like that sense is taken. The way that you hear, I want there to be beautiful curated playlist and an amazing DJ or some type of jazz that's playing that makes you feel excited about being there. And then touch, there's textures in the napkins, there's textures around, there's textures on the bar. And when you can really take care of all of the different levels of the human experience when it comes to an event, it's just another way that as we step out from the digital moment and into the experience moment, there is this level of humanity that you're giving guests as they walk through the door that makes them feel sort of safe and taken care of, but it also makes them feel like they are transported to another place. Life is hard, and we have kids, we own businesses, we live in the most expensive city in the US. So if you're going to come to an event, I don't want to waste your time. I won't waste your time. I will make sure that any client that hires us to tell their story, when we invite guests into their space, into their experience, that we are not only taking care of those people from the moment they walk through the door, but we are also making them think differently. We are inviting the right people into the room who are at the top of their game, who have a level of depth, whether it's traveling the world, a knowledge of their craft, that are together. Because for me, at this point in my life, I appreciate being social. I love it. But I really have found myself being wildly more selective about the kinds of people that I want to be in the room with. And something that is really important when building a brand is if you're going to invite people to come in and experience your brand, you don't just want volume and numbers. You really want quality over quantity. I'm a big believer that like 50 to 75 is the best thing that could ever happen to a dinner party, to an event. And while I love a big broad stroke event or a festival, it's not something I'm interested in really attending nor producing. Not to say that we're not about to do an event that we're really excited about. That's 400 people. But I think at the end of the day, if you're really trying to get your core message across in a singular way, having a smaller crowd of big thinkers is the best way to go. And I think people often oversee that. I also think when you're transferring the experience of your brand from digital to experience, and I can give you a really great example of this. We had a client that brought us on. They had really taken off during 2020, bringing women together through curated memes, and they were an incredible digital community of women. But, around 2023, there was sort of this itch and feeling that people were really starting to crave experiences again. And while it's nothing new to create an experience, I think because of what psychologically happened during the pandemic, people were still sort of touch and go in 2022. And by 2023, people desperately missed connection. We had now sort of left the office. We were working from home. Some of us had children during that time. And there was this isolation that was sort of profound. It was thick in the air. And people wanted to move from that connection that they were able to build in a digital platform and or community into something real, into something curated, and into something that was worth people's time and that was meaningful. And so we were able with this client to launch her community that she built so beautifully online into the first chapter here in San Diego. And I will say that when we were able to bring that community together in person, the content that we got from those experiences that were thoughtful, it was curated, it was a smaller crowd. Most events were 30 to 40 women. The topics, if we were going to have a panel, for example, were meaningful. They were talking about fear and how it holds us back and how it's pushed us. Not only were those small events wildly meaningful, I even had one of my best friends come down for it, Jackie, and she was really moved. She hadn't experienced anything like it. And to me, someone who, like her, who has experienced a lot of different really high level productions, it meant a lot. And so not only were the rooms being moved and impacted so that all of those 30 to 40 people were going out to other people to say, we have to come back again. They were left with that feeling that I was just describing, but also the content that we got from those events where you can see the connection happening amongst the women. As an example, another event that we did for them, a lot of people came solo and we watched a lot of women leave together to go spend time together afterwards after they had just met that night. And we captured that via video and photo. And that content did better than anything else as we started to build out this platform for her digitally that was specifically for the in-person events. We would try to apply the original success of the memes, and it wouldn't do as well. And that was because for this particular account, people were following it and being drawn to it simply and because of the in-person opportunity to connect and the way that we captured that. And so oftentimes when you go to pivot and you start to bring things out of other things, you have to continually check in to ask yourself, what does this audience want and need? How are we serving them? What are they not being given? And in this particular instance, we wanted to create a consistency of events where women could connect and be educated via panels, have some fun with some cocktails, and also then get down and get grounded through more sort of like wellness events. And so we continued sort of the trifecta of those three events, and we saw a lot of success. But it's because each of those events was thought through. We thought through the calendar year. We thought through the partnerships. We thought through the space. We thought through who we were inviting to come. We thought through things like intention cards and women sharing their intentions as they arrived. We thought through the panelists. Who was it? Do they represent an array of different experiences as a human? Can people in the audience see themselves in these women? And so there's so much thought put into the curation of events that I think a lot of brands often overlook. And it's something that I'm really proud that we've built at Chrome City. So what is the messy middle in brand storytelling? It's showing the late nights. It's showing the process. It's the process of becoming. It's not just showing the being, it's showing the becoming. People want to become with you. People want to be along for the ride. People want to feel like they were there from the beginning because that's how you build loyalty. Loyalty is the most important part of brand building. And the way to build loyalty is to show the real story, to show what's really happened to get to where you are. And when you're able to do that, people want to be with you for a lifetime. Think about it from the relationship standpoint. When you build a relationship and you are there with each other and you're there for the messy moments and you pick each other up and you see the way you've grown, you feel so much more connected. There's a trust and a loyalty that's built. The same can be applied to brands. When people just see a perfectly polished human being, it's a little bit intimidating and it's not really that deep. And therefore, I don't really feel an obligation to continue to try to get to know you because you're showing up looking all perfect. But when you show up as a brand with a little bit of a mess and a real story and a true heart, that's where you'll find people that will come day in and day out. They will buy your product. They will attend your parties. They will be there for your launches. And I think it's incredibly important to show the becoming of your brand, not just the being. I sit here today to tell you more about how we've been able to work with brands to really showcase their humanity. I think it's something that I was born with. It's something that I love to do. I love to see the humanity in the creators behind the brands that we work with. And we too have a few brands that we're right in the middle of. We have this amazing podcast, Wild and Wise, and we're in the messy middle. We're growing, we're figuring out our audience, we're figuring out who we want to talk to, the stories we want to tell, and we're capturing that and sharing it with you. We also have the blank table. It's a beautiful example of something that has grown so beautifully, but so many of these humanity aspects that I've been talking about in this episode can really be seen through the way that we showcase the storytelling of the farmers, of the chefs, of their products. You know, we work with amazing local brands like Specialty Produce who really work with the community, work with the chefs. You know, they have a global reach to get the products that they get, the produce that they get. And we're so lucky that we're able to work with other community members like them, bring them into the experience, and really showcase their food and the products that they bring in to our audiences. And so there's this ecosystem that's built when you're building a brand. And it's messy, and we're still working every day to make these events sold out, incredible experiences, elevated, different, in a different place, in a different part of town. And so that's where we're in the messy middle. But at the end of the day, what people are attracted to with this brand in particular is there's an ecosystem that's happening of the storytelling. There's, you know, incredible produce at the mixology. There's a variety of guests, an old man coming to celebrate his birthday, someone coming by themselves for the first time to a dinner, best friends who haven't been able to catch up or get something on the calendar in like a year, and they're here at our dinner. And we're telling those stories, we're capturing those moments. So photography and videography are your best friend when it comes to brand loyalty, because it's capturing those moments, it's capturing the smile, it's capturing the experience of your product, of your people, to build that loyalty and trust. As we start to wrap up episode 1 of our brand new season 3 of Wild and Wise, I just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. We're super excited about the guests that we're having on. And, you know, this time in my life is a little bit messy. There's a lot of moving parts, and I'm excited to share a little bit more behind the scenes with you, both on my personal, in this podcast, and with our guests. Each person that we're going to have on doesn't have it perfectly figured out. They're right in that messy middle, learning, growing, reflecting, and discovering what it is that they're trying to do in life, how they can better serve the people that are, you know, enjoying their brands, consuming their content. And it's going to be really exciting. So thank you so much, and have a great day.